As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in the white robes, sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed.
"Don't be alarmed," he said. "We're looking for Jesus the Nazarene who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him."
But go and tell the disciples and Peter, he is going before you to Galilee. There you will see him, as he told you."
My name is Adrian L'esperance. I am from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I am 22 years old, and my major is adolescent education with a concentration in math. And I'm a Christian at St. John's University. Put simply, to be a Christian is to be a follower of Jesus Christ. To follow Jesus Christ is to love God. Also, to be a Christian is to love others. One time, a teacher of the law came to Jesus and said, "What is the greatest commandment?" And Jesus said to him, love the Lord your God before anything else, and love your neighbor before yourself. And that's really just a simple way of putting it. That's what a Christian is. A Christian is concerned about every single part of this world. So whether that has to do with recycling your milk cartons, helping out at the local orphanage down the street or after school program, inviting your neighbor over for dinner because you're trying to build that community amongst your neighbors, looking out for your neighbors. That means inviting people from your church over and encouraging them. That means bringing people to church. I believe that Jesus Christ is life. He is life, and He's the giver of life. And so I want people to know Him, to be connected to Him, so they can know true life, so they can experience true life, so they can live life to the fullest, so they can kind of be filled out, fully formed human beings. Because I see a lot of students on campus that are struggling. They don't know which way is up and which way is down. They don't know how to just go about their day, and I know some of them, when they go to bed at night, they cry themselves to sleep, or they're too drunk to even think about the day that they've had and the life that they're living. And I think the Bible and Jesus Christ brings solutions to all of that. I think it kind of solves the world's mysteries in a lot of ways. You no longer feel displaced, but you feel like you belong somewhere. You know why you exist. My overall experience at St. John's has been a interesting one, filled with all kinds of different experiences. When I came my freshman year, I started by living in a soccer house, just with the soccer teammates, because I played on the soccer team. And it was a living situation I had never experienced before, because late weekend nights I would come up from the basement where my room was, and there'd be all kinds of pandemonium and partying and revelry and drinking, and I don't even want to know the other stuff that happened in closed doors, and that was something very different than I had grown up experiencing. I grew up in a family that was conservative, kind of in every sense of the word, politically conservative, socially conservative, and I never really got into drinking or partying in high school. I just didn't see really the value in it. So that year was a good year. It was interesting, and sometimes honestly I would go up and spend time with my teammates. I wouldn't drink, but I would go up there and talk, and sometimes I'd have some good conversations, because people are willing to share when they're intoxicated slightly, or very intoxicated. And sometimes I even talk to people about Jesus. I feel like most of the time it was girls, because girls were willing to sit down and have a conversation with me. And I'm not too sure as to why, but and so that would happen, and that would be cool. But I kind of started to realize, and this is just my perspective, but at those parties there wasn't just a lot of substance. Maybe I had a great conversation with somebody at the party, or I felt like I really encouraged someone, or maybe someone's really struggling. I talk to people, and when they're drunk, they could be very happy, or they could be very sad, and they would talk about things in their life that was going on, the relationship with their family, how they were doing in school, just how they felt at school. Maybe they felt really displaced, or they didn't belong, or they didn't have any friends. And so I was always there to listen and talk and encourage, till about maybe 1 a.m. Then I started to go to bed. But I started to realize that, I don't know, that the next day I could walk up to that person and they may have not even remembered the conversation I had had with them, which was unfortunate. And so it kind of taught me that, I would go to those places, I would talk to those people, whatever it takes, especially if it's somebody I know and maybe they're in trouble, they're in a bad situation. But as a Christian, I really want to make a difference in people's lives, and I still want to do that today, and even more strongly today than 4 years ago, because I think I've grown in my faith and my love for Jesus Christ and my love for people. But I kind of started to see, I can do a lot more good, and I can be a better influence and just a better friend, I think, in situations that are a little different. My second year being a leader for InterVarsity Christian Fellowship, which was my third year at St. John's, people kind of joked I was like the spiritual advisor, kind of like the e-board or the leader committee or whatever. And basically what that meant is that I didn't have an official position, but I was just kind of on the board just to help out where I could. And the president at that time was just a sophomore, so he was kind of young, and he had been a Christian for not too long. And so he kind of invited me to be on the board with him and to kind of help out. And he and I were pretty close at the time, and so that was really nice. And so I helped out with a lot of different things. And then this past year, which is my final year, my fourth year at St. John's, I was the co-president of the group along with Sasha Perez. And so that meant, thinking of the topic for every large group every week. So InterVarsity would have a large group every Thursday of every week, and we would have a different speaker come in, or a different topic that we would talk about, or a different scripture that we would discuss. And it was kind of my responsibility to kind of hopefully shape the whole year in such a way where, all the large groups are kind of connected, and you're kind of bringing people through a progression where they're learning, they're understanding the Bible, they're understanding Christianity, they're understanding the gospel, they're understanding how they can make a difference on campus, how they can love people, how they can change the world in a better place. And I think that's something that St. John's students take for granted. Being in New York City, we are connected to the entire world. We walk around campus and you'll meet international students from every corner of the world. And so if you can make a difference in one of their lives, if you can help one of them, if you can be a good friend to one of those people, they can go back and change their community because of something you did. And those sound like really high aspirations, but I think it's true. And I think that's what Jesus Christ has called us to do, his creation to do, to follow him and to live as he lived.